Hi, this is Johnny with Good Burger Reviews, and I'm here to do a brand new 2025 movie review. And the movie is a Netflix original, Ziam. This movie is directed by Kulp Kajarek. It stars Johnny Anduin, Nutanchi Duwankanik, Mark Pin Sagranat. In a world succumbing to hunger, a Muay Thai fighter fights off zombies to save his beloved and a child in a collapsing world in a hospital. So this one is definitely a movie blend. It is like 28 years later meets Bruce Lee. So set in Thailand, it's already a post-apocalyptic world due to famine, infection, and non-zombie related destruction outside of Thailand. But Thailand ends up managing to survive in an almost normal way because they have a factory that can produce food bars. Within Thailand, there becomes a zombie outbreak because they decide to eat some fish that was found that they thought was safe and then turned out not to be. This movie is action-packed, filled with zombies, lots of gore, lots of intensity, lots of chills, definitely lots of special effects, and there's some CGI. Just put out a review of a zombie apocalypse movie where it turns out in the movie there's really only one zombie, and that ended up being somewhat of a disappointment. Now, this is the exact opposite. There is hundreds of zombies. In some parts, it was giving me 28 days later, the way the zombie wars. And then in other parts, it was like World War Z zombies. They were fast. There was tons of them. They were moving around like crazy. The zombie infection spreads quick in this one. Quite intense. So our main characters, Rin and Ziam, are a couple, and they are trying to survive this zombie apocalypse that's unraveling in the hospital that she works at. And overall, they're likable characters. There's also a small child that ends up with them that they rescue, and he was good as well. Now, there's one thing that I don't know if I'd put this as a negative, maybe more of a mix, but it seemed like in the making of this movie, they either used different actors for the voices or they just dubbed in the talking later, and that becomes very obvious in many of the scenes where it is conversation heavy. And I wouldn't say it totally takes away from the movie, but our young little kid, he was cute. He's about 7 or 8, maybe even 9, but when he talks, it's like he literally sounds like the kid from Finding Nemo. It's that voice, and it's very apparent that it's not that kid making that voice at that moment. And considering the fact that the movie is action-packed and there's more action scenes than talking scenes, it doesn't take away too much. Overall, this movie is mostly predictable, but it's extremely fun and scary and tense. I had a good time watching it, and I do recommend that if you have Netflix, to go ahead and check it out. If you're a zombie fan, if you like 28 Days Later or World War Z or Night of the Living Dead, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one. It definitely brings the zombie level to the most intense that I've seen in a long while. These zombies are done right. These zombies are extreme, they're fast, they're grueling, they're gross to look at. Now, remember I said that this was a blend with like a Bruce Lee movie. There was definitely like a kung fu, John Wick action aspect to this. There was lots. So our main star Ziam, he basically can kick everyone's butt. I mean, he has in parts where zombies are everywhere and he manages to escape such crazy scenarios. Now, I am going to keep this one spoiler free because overall I do think it's worth a watch. However, I will say sometimes the kung fu and the fight scenes came off intense and awesome to watch, and other times it was a little comical. And not only does he have to battle the zombies, there's also a task force of men that were sent in to rescue a certain individual who's crucial in the movie, and they also end up being a problem for him, and he has to battle them as well. They spend the majority of this movie trying to escape this hospital and this zombie apocalypse. So I'm going to get down to business on this one. Overall, I would say this is a basic burger. And the reason why is there are some plot holes, some suspension of disbelief, and the dubbing, that happens in this movie. Now, the zombie action definitely makes up for those faults. Zombie action is top notch. But the story itself, besides being predictable in most parts, was decent.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. But they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up, they were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part. From a fainting to a slip, and a kicking from the hip. Everybody was kung fu.
The characters were likable, but they pretty much were one-dimensional. There wasn't much outside of their surfaces. And overall, this one is a big step up from Don't Feed the Children. And I would say maybe just a slight step down from the 28 years later movie that's still playing in theaters. So we're having a quite filled zombie summer. Well, don't forget to like, subscribe, tap the notification bell, all that jazz, and stay scared of all those crazy, insane, kung fu zombies.